Hello, my name is Bailey Blackwood, and today I'll be discussing the theory of culture shock. I really like to educate people on culture shock because so often it's taken as, a student, a foreign exchange student coming over from Europe and living in the United States, or a student from the United States going over to another country, studying abroad, things like that. But it actually can be seen and experienced in our own backyard, I guess you could say, with people that are from the States. Our textbook defines culture shock as the psychological reaction you experience when you're in a culture very different than yours. And I will just kind of be going over the 4 stages of culture shock along with my personal experience and how my personal experience falls into each one of those. So the 4 concepts, or the 4 stages, are the honeymoon, the crisis, the recovery, and the adjustment. So the honeymoon phase. At first, you experience fascination, enchantment with new culture and its people. The crisis is the difference between you and your own culture and the new setting, and can create problems. You tend to feel frustrated, like you really shouldn't be there on that surface. That's when you begin to feel the actual shock. The recovery is the stage where you gain the skills that are necessary to function within that society or culture. And then the adjustment is the final stage in which you kind of adjust to that lifestyle, that norm. You just enjoy everything a lot more than you did. Still sometimes experience the difficulties of that culture and the way you used to live. But at this point, it's more enjoyable. So when I was going into my sophomore year of high school, I moved from a suburban Atlanta area to the boondocks, I like to say, of North Georgia, and completely different cultures. I was used to a small private Christian school where I had a graduating class of about 60, 70, give or take. And then, I grew up in that county. I lived in the house. I lived in one house my whole life. The grocery store was 5-10 minutes away, and things like that. Everything was comfortable, and I had the friends and the family. Well, uprooted everything. My dad got a new job, which ended up being great, but we moved to a small mountain town where everyone knew everybody. You grew up with the same people, 3 years old and up, birth and up. Your grandparents went to the same church, and their grandparents did. And that high school that I was moving into had about 1,200, 1,300 students, and I was an hour away from the nearest shopping mall. Our grocery store was 30 minutes away, so it was a big change for me. I didn't know a soul, and so I really went into it blind. And I'm going to go through those phases that I just mentioned, but my honeymoon phase was that I loved the mountains. In all honesty, I actually grew up going there. My uncle lived there for a long time, so we would go up and visit, and I loved it. It was beautiful, but I was still like, hesitant, but I was still excited. Went to open house, and I had a great open house. I met all all my teachers, and really loved them, and was excited. I felt good about everything. I met my counselor, and everything was feeling good. Then first day of school came, and that's when the crisis situation kind of sunk in. I realized that I didn't know a soul when I was pulling up to the school, and it's a lot when you have so many different types of people in a large amount, and you don't know anyone. You don't know where you're going, what you're doing, and things like that. So I really was frustrated and honestly sad, just the fact that I was in this situation, and I was like, I used to be so comfortable a few months ago. And then the recovery did start within, maybe that first semester. I started meeting people, and I had to look at myself and be like, you cannot feel bad for yourself. You have to just suck it up and burst out of that bubble that you're in. or you're going to be miserable for the next 3 years. And I didn't want that. So I started talking to people more. I kind of not changed my personality, but just kind of decided to be more social and not be so quiet about everything. I ended up meeting my best friend, and life was great. And then the adjustment kind of kicks in with that recovery. I started to actually enjoy going to school there. I wanted to get plugged in. I wanted to get involved. I ended up being on the captain of the sports medicine team. I was vice president of my class, the editor-in-chief of our yearbook. I really got plugged in, and I wanted to be able to do that. And in all honesty, super proud of myself, because that culture shock is something extremely hard to go through when you are at one of your most vulnerable stages in life. That's kind of what determines the rest of your life, you know what I mean? So I'm glad that I was able to go through that and experience that and help others. I was able to help some new students that came to school kind of get over that hump of being new. Brown University actually released an article on culture shock and kind of stated a few ways and to overcome that, and these are what stuck out to me. But keep active. Don't sit at home and feel sorry for yourself. Try making a weekend trip to get away and stay refreshed, and continue to talk to people and have faith in yourself. That really will get you over that culture shock, and you will feel better over time. That's what I would always tell those new students. Like, hey, I was new once too. You have no idea, but you think no one has any idea what you're feeling, but I do. And if you just have faith in yourself that you will overcome that, you'll go very far. And so I think that's very important to know about culture shock, that it's not just a foreign thing. It can be in our backyard too. Thank you.